You are listening to the Becoming the Wealthy You podcast with Jermaine Foley. If you're a woman who makes good money in your career or business, but you're not building wealth like you want to, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, you'll learn how to stop overspending, break free from the cycle of debt, save lots of cash, and become the wealthy woman you were born to be. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Okay, today I want to introduce to you a brand new concept, and I think it will explain a lot about your finances, especially if you find yourself feeling like you should be further along, like you are constantly overspending, you find yourself stuck in the cycle of credit card debt, or that you just can't really save or get ahead, even though you make good money. For many of you, there are a lot of reasons why this is happening. It's very complicated. It's not just one thing. But I believe the concept I'm going to share with you today is going to shine a light on one of the things that could be happening. And today we're going to talk about it. And that is all about reactive versus proactive money management. Okay, so there are two ways to manage your money. You can manage it reactively or proactively. And most women who feel behind financially, they handle their money very reactively. And this is not a knock on them. It's not that they're irresponsible or that they don't have what it takes to manage money well or that they're undisciplined. It's just that they're being reactive, and it's just by default. It's not deliberate. It's not on purpose. It's not intentional. It's just the unintentional way they've been socialized to handle money. And this is why a lot of times they're not where they want to be. So let's talk about what reactive money management actually is. So really all it is short-term thinking when it comes to your money. So you deal with your money on a month-to-month basis. You wait until something is close to being due to figure it out. You're not thinking long-term at all. You're not thinking about what's due 6 months from now. You're only worried about what's coming up, what's close, what feels urgent. So in other words, you handle expenses as they show up instead of preparing for them ahead of time or in advance. So it could look something like this. You know Christmas is coming, and you know Christmas is a very fun time for you. It's a time where you usually spend a lot of money. So instead of preparing for that, you just think, I'll figure it out when we get closer, right? You wait until November or December to figure Christmas out, even though you know it's coming. Maybe you're a part of an organization and you have annual dues, right? You know they're coming in August. They're going to be doing August, but it's March. And you're just like, yeah, I'll figure that out in July or August. You don't make a plan or prepare for it so that when it comes, it's not a burden. Or maybe you have a vacation on the books and it's months away. And instead of setting up a fund and planning for it ahead of time, you think, you know what? I make good money. I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. I'll either pull it from savings. Worst case scenario, I'll throw it on a credit card and pay it right back off. You reassure yourself. You soothe it over in your mind. And what you really do is you move responsibility from your present self forward to your future self. So you put all the responsibility and the figuring out on your future self. And the thing to really remember about all of the examples I just gave you is that none of them are surprises. We're not talking about an unexpected expense here. We're talking about something that you know is going to happen. It just doesn't happen every single month. It's irregular. And instead of planning for that, you just kind of wait until the last minute and then you scramble to figure it out. And that causes a lot of stress. It causes you to do one or two things I already mentioned. You either dip into your savings, you put it on a credit card, or maybe what you'll do is just use your cash for the month, but then you're strapped financially. And so you're left with having to put groceries and other things on a credit card. And so either way, you end up having to go a little deeper into debt because, again, you didn't plan. So I want you to know, again, if this is how you operate with money, if you handle your money very reactively, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or that you're irresponsible or that you have no self-control or that you're a lost cause. None of that is true. It just means you're a human being and you're doing what normal human beings do. We prefer to delay things that are a little bit more labor intensive. We prefer to delay things that could seem a little bit painful in the moment, and we prefer what's easiest and what feels best. So sitting down and figuring this stuff out, that takes time and energy. Your brain doesn't want to do that. And if you do choose to start preparing in advance, your brain is like, well, that means I can't indulge in instant gratification every time I want to, because now we're saving for things that are upcoming versus just living in the moment. Okay. And so if this is you, I want you to know there's a psychological reason for this, and it is called present bias. So present bias just means that your brain prioritizes what feels urgent right now versus what's coming later. So let's pretend it's January, right? Christmas in January does not feel urgent. Summer vacations in January, it feels like you still have plenty of time to figure it out. Annual dues that are due in August are not on your radar. So your brain will literally tell you, we have time, we'll figure that out later, we'll deal with it later. Let's just focus on the moment. And here's the interesting thing. When we do that, we literally don't even think about what's coming, and we just focus on the moment. We indulge in instant gratification. We're not planning. We're overspending. We're emotionally spending. We're spending money that literally could be going towards your vacation on things that really don't even matter to you. When we let our brains just tell us, we'll figure it out later, we'll deal with it later. When we abdicate what we could be doing now to our future self. So when it doesn't feel urgent, when it doesn't feel pressing, your brain is just like, listen, that's not important right now. But when it gets closer, it suddenly feels real. It suddenly feels like, okay, I got to figure this out now. It feels urgent, and then it becomes stressful, and then you start scrambling. And that's when we start beating ourselves up again, saying, I don't have discipline, I don't have self-control, I should be better at this. But remember, this isn't a discipline problem. It's just that you're used to reactive money management instead of proactive money management. And so it's not that you're bad with money. It's not that you have no self-control. It's just that the way you handle money is very reactive instead of proactive. And you can switch that. You can change that. And I'm going to show you how now. So here's what proactive money management looks like. You think ahead of time. You're not just focused on this month. You're also looking at the month ahead, 6 months from now, and what's coming within the next 9 to 12 months. You're really thinking about your whole life. You're not just thinking about the moment. So this could look like you sit down once and you identify what's coming up in your life. It doesn't matter what month it is. You can just think like, okay, what is coming up? And you want to look at those irregular but very predictable expenses. They happen every single year. They just don't happen every single month. And from there, you can say, I know for sure I have a vacation coming up. Christmas is always a big deal for our family. Let me go ahead and set up a plan. Let me estimate how much I want to spend, and let me set up a plan that can make it so easy for me to put a little bit aside every single month. And so when that thing comes, at least I'm almost ready. Even if I don't have all of the money set aside, because if you start planning for Christmas in September or maybe August, you may not get the full amount, but at least you'll have a good running start. It's better than having zero, and then you're left scrambling when it comes to December. And let me say this clearly one more time. This does not have to happen in January. It does not have to happen at the beginning of the year. It does not have to happen at the beginning of the month. You can do this in July and still have money for Christmas in December. You can do this in March and still have your summer vacation paid for. There is no special time to start. There's just a decision point, right? You don't need a new year. You just need a brand new approach when it comes to this. Now, let me tell you something that is very, very true. There's a part of your brain that hates this whole idea. Now, there's also a part of your brain that loves this idea, and that's your prefrontal cortex. That's your higher self. That's the part of you that wants more, that wants to build wealth, that wants to stop overspending, that wants to have tens of thousands of dollars in the bank, that wants to be credit card debt free. That part of you loves this idea. That part of you that hates stressing about money all the time, that hates waiting until the last minute, that part is like, yes, let's do this. This will feel amazing. Imagine arriving at Christmas and it's fully funded. Imagine going on your vacation and all you have to worry about is packing your suitcase. There's no stress or guilt about how you're going to pay for it when you come home. You're not going to return home feeling financially strapped. And to your higher self, that prefrontal cortex, it thinks this sounds incredible. But your primitive brain, it hates this idea. Remember, your primitive brain is like a toddler who wants Sour Patch Kids in the grocery store when you told him or her no. It's throwing tantrums. It wants what it wants in the moment. It just wants to feel good. It could care less about what's good for their future. It does not care about proactive money management. Because guess what proactive money management requires? It requires boundaries. It's going to require some of your energy. It's going to require some limits. You're going to tell yourself no sometimes so that you can say yes more often. And it's going to require structure. And your primitive brain hates all of that. Just like a toddler doesn't like structure, your primitive brain doesn't like it either. But I want to remind you, you'll still get to spend money. We're not about strict budgets over here. But we're going to do it from a planned, thoughtful place. We're not just going to spend in the moment and neglect all the things we have coming up in the future. So that means we may be spending a little less month to month so that when we get to our vacation time and when we get to Christmas and when we get to the things that really are important to us, they're fully funded, right? So it's not about limiting yourself. It is about making decisions that are good for you now and in the future, not just the decisions that are good for you now, not just the ones that feel good in the moment. Because remember, the primitive brain operates off of something called the motivational triad, which means it just wants to feel good in the moment. It wants to do the easiest thing in the moment, and it also wants to do what feels the best. So it wants to avoid pain. And it does not care about long-term benefits. It just cares about short-term gratification. And so that toddler part of your brain, it resists everything I'm telling you to do right now. And honestly, that's to be expected. But remember, you're the adult. You want to let the adult part of your brain run the show when it comes to money. Even though the toddler seems like it's the most powerful person in the room, we know that if you're at a grocery store and the toddler is flopping around on the floor, screaming and hollering, they may seem very powerful, but if they're doing that, you as the adult can pick that toddler up and simply carry him or her out of the store. So the prefrontal cortex is the most powerful part of your brain, even though the primitive part of the brain acts like it is, because it screams and hollers and it gives you urges and it wants you to do what feels good in the moment. But once you learn how to let your prefrontal cortex be in charge of your finances, that is when your whole world will change. And this is the work I do with my clients. I help them to put the prefrontal cortex in charge of their money. So they're making decisions, again, that are not just good for the moment, but they're also good for your future self as well. So we're not putting all the stress and burdens of all the things we need to take care of on our future self. We spread it out so that your present self and your future self gets to live the best version of herself. So let me give you a real example from my own life. So one of the habits that I've really built up well over the years is that I save consistently, and I'm constantly growing the amount of money that I save. Now, I will also say that my expenses have been increasing because I have two children who are, one is in college, one is in private school, and one's about to go to college. So I have two. The one in private school will be graduating and he'll be going to college. So our expenses have been increasing. So the need to save more is just what I need to do. I just sent an email to my email list. If you're on my email list, you got this, saying like, what would you do with the extra $1,600? Because that's how much interest I earned from my high yield savings account last year. That's just a side note. So I'm telling you, if you have savings, it should be in a high yield interest account. And I love Ally. SoFi is also really good. But even with that, I still sometimes find myself ignoring the things that I know are coming up. Because guess what? I have a brain that is just like yours. It's a human brain where sometimes, if I'm not careful, the primitive brain will try to run the show and it will try to overpower the prefrontal cortex. And again, remember, the prefrontal cortex is the most powerful part of the brain, but it sometimes doesn't feel that way because the primitive brain can be very bratty. So sometimes when I have something big coming up, I'll just think very reactively, I'll just take it from savings or I'll put it on a card and pay it right off. That feels like relief in the moment. My higher self knows that this expense is coming up and it wants to plan for it. It wants to sit down and handle it. It wants to know what's my plan. But because my primitive brain wants just to conserve energy and to do what feels good in the moment, all it cares about is getting me to put it off into the future and to not think about it now. And if you've been listening and realizing that money is the one area you just can't seem to figure out, even though you're successful everywhere else, hear me when I say this. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that traditional money advice wasn't made for women like you. Women who earn good money, want to build wealth, and still enjoy their lives. My clients all start where you are, paying off the same credit cards over and over again, saving up to a certain amount only to spend it back down, or feeling like based on their income, they should be so much further along by now. But with my help, they change all of that. One client paid off over $11,000 in credit card debt and never ran it back up again. Another saved $5,000 in just 2 months. And another went on multiple vacations without going back into credit card debt. They are not special unicorns. They're women just like you, great at making money and ready to finally get great at not only enjoying it, but also keeping it and growing it. So if you've been listening and thinking she's talking directly to me, this invitation is for you. Don't keep pushing this off. You and I can fix this together, privately, safely, and without judgment. All you have to do is go to jermainefoley.com/consult to book your wealth building strategy consultation or click on the link in the show notes. Let's finally get you unstuck with money. The way it does that is by saying you'll just pull it from savings. You'll just pull it from savings or you'll figure it out. But when I do that, I'm being very reactive and I'm abdicating responsibility to my future self. And that always causes stress and more angst than I want to have when it comes to money. Now, here's the contrast. And this is actually real. I'm dealing with this right now. My son is graduating from high school and he wants to have his graduation party at the house. And I know that this is expensive. I already did a graduation party before and we had it at a venue, but this time he wants it at the house. And actually, I think sometimes it's more expensive to have it at your home because of all of the things you have to bring in, all of the things you have to buy. So I know this is coming up. And my brain wanted to just wait until a month before to figure out how I was going to do it. And I was just like, no, toddler brain, we're not doing that. So I made myself sit down. It's like, let's just sit down and think about the catering. Think about the tents and the tables and the tablecloths and the decorations and all the things. And let's just come up with a plan for how we're going to make it all work. And that's what I did. But that required energy and that required me to put aside the temporary discomfort I was feeling with doing that. And I said, listen, we're going to make some phone calls. We're going to do this. And guess what? I now have a budget all set up. I set up an automatic savings to a whole different bank. I actually opened up an account with SoFi. And so it's just separate and it's going automatically every month. And I've decided too that any spending money that I don't spend, I'm just going to move that over to SoFi. And so when his graduation party comes, we're ready. The money will be there. We're actually on track to have way more than we need, and we can use that money for something else. That is what it looks like to be proactive versus reactive. Instead of telling myself, I'll just take it from savings or I'll put it on a card, it's just like, no, let's take a moment. And it actually didn't even take that much time. And now I feel so much relief because here's something I didn't say earlier, but let me say it now. When we push things off, into the future, it gives us some relief. But it's not 100% relief because it's still sitting in the back of your mind. It's still like this low-key level stress because you know it's coming up. But now that I've set up this plan, I've done the grunt work up front, I literally am not even thinking about it. I know it's taken care of and there's no stress. There's no low-grade stress in the background. I can literally stop thinking about it because I know we're ready, right? I've even hired the caterer. I've hired the people to come and bring the tents and the chairs. Like, it's all taken care of. So I can just literally rest. This is how you give yourself peace of mind. So here's the truth that I want to leave you with. Reactive money management feels easier in the moment. Proactive money management feels better in the long run. So which one are you going to choose? Are you going to continue to be reactive with money, or are you going to decide that you're going to become proactive with money? Now, next week, I'm going to show you how living reactively feeds directly into two of the most expensive financial habits that you have. And once you see that connection, you'll understand why fixing this isn't optional if you really want to build wealth, if you really want to make real progress with your money. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop being reactive. I'm going to be proactive. For some of you, you will sit down, you'll map things out, you'll open up accounts, you'll set up the automatic transfers, and you'll follow through. But there's another big chunk of you, and if I'm talking to you, you know, because you know yourself better than anyone else, consumption is always easier than execution. It feels very good and productive to listen to this podcast. It feels like you're doing something, even though you're just consuming, right? It feels good to think about setting this up, right? Your primitive brain is okay with you getting excited about this and thinking about doing it, but it will push against you actually doing it. Something will come up. You'll get busy. You'll forget. You'll tell yourself you'll do it next week. You'll tell yourself you'll listen to this episode again. And then guess what? Life will happen and you'll forget all about it, right? And then you'll come to a situation where now you got to figure out how to pay for this vacation that you had planned for 8 months and now is 1 month out and you got to make that final payment. You'll be like, dang it, I should have done what that podcast told me to do, right? And so for some of you, you have the best intentions, but you're just not going to do it and you know yourself. And even if you do sit down and map things out and actually set it all up in your mind, will you execute it? Will you execute it at the granular level and actually do it? Because some of us will make a plan, but will we actually implement the plan? No. If you identify with what I'm saying, you're excited, but you know you're not going to do it, or you make the plan, but you don't execute it, that is not a weakness. That is just being a human. Because you're not fighting against math, you're fighting against the way your brain is wired. You're fighting against how you've been handling money for decades, habits and patterns that you've been taught and that you've been implementing year after year, decade after decade. And so listening to one episode sometimes isn't enough for some of you. Some of you, you'll go and do it. But there's a bigger chunk of you that just won't. And again, it's not because you're bad. It's just you're fighting your present bias. That part of you, remember we talked about it, that prioritizes the short term over the long term. You're fighting impulses because if you're putting money aside for all these things that are coming, then that gives you less to impulsively spend in the moment. You're also fighting against comfort. And again, as I said, habit. But even though all of this is against you, there's so much more waiting for you on the other side of doing it. Once you push past the discomfort, then there's so much more for you. And for some of you, especially if you already make good money, this one shift alone can create a $10,000 turnaround in your life. I know it for sure because my clients are doing it every single day. They are changing their lives one decision at a time. And when we look up, when we're done with our coaching program, after spending that time with me, their finances have turned around $10,000 or more. And so this is what is waiting for you on the other side of pushing past that discomfort. And if you want help with that, I would love to help you through one-to-one money coaching. So if you're interested in that, all you have to do is book a consultation by going to jermainefoley.com jermainefoley.com/consult. That's Jermaine with a G, foley.com/consult. These consultations are zero pressure. What we'll do is look at where you are, where you want to be, the obstacles that are standing in your way, and how I can help you overcome those obstacles and help you completely change your financial life. If that is you, you're invited to book that free complimentary consultation at jermainefoley.com/consult. All right, I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, if money is the one area of life you just can't seem to figure out, even though you make good money, you're not alone. That's why you're invited to book a complimentary one-to-one money consultation with me so that we can figure out how to solve your biggest money challenges. To sign up, simply go to jermainefoley.com/consult or check out the show notes. Hope to meet you soon.